So we find the first topic of chapter 1 is to define and discuss what economics is. So economics is the study of not animals, but how humans, which I guess are animals, but it's a humanistic discipline is what I'm trying to say. How humans make decisions in the face or condition of scarcity. Quite simply, we have unlimited, let's get a different color there, needs, no, needs starts with an N, and wants, but a limited amount of resources. When we talk about these limited amount of resources, what we're really talking about is scarcity. Scarcity is a term that we'll see a lot in economics, and this is saying that there is a limited amount of pretty much of goods. And so the reason why I say goods is because we would never say that there's a scarcity of pollution, right? Pollution is an economic bad. So here I'm not saying goods like goods and services, I'm talking about like an economic good. There's a limited amount of things that we see as good. So scarcity has to do with the limited amount of valuable things, right? So we live in a very huge economy, right? You know, there's 158 million people in the labor force, right? And there's, however many millions of acres of land in the United States, but it's still a limited amount. It's not unlimited. And so and at the end of the day, even if we do, expand the population, even if we start, terraforming some of the oceans or something like that, right? At the end of the day, we all have the scarce resource of only having 24 hours every day. So, and we have a certain amount of lifespan as well. So scarcity shows up in a lot of different things. Scarcity shows up in the fact that we have homelessness. There's how do we get the things and the services that we want, right? Well, we work for them. We work for them and then we pay for them. And if we can't work and get, sell our services on the open market, then we're not going to be able to pay for rent. Similar things about scarcity is, the health insurance kind of debacle that we're still going through. I'll just call it a situation, right? The fact that health insurance is, so expensive and the deductibles are so high and it's the most expensive system in the world that we have here in the United States, right? All of these, issues and stuff like that are connected to scarcity, right? We have these needs and wants. We have a need to be sheltered. We have a need to be healthy, right? So there's the other thing too is when we talk about this unlimited situation here, the unlimited is not necessarily referring to the needs so much as it's referring to the wants, right? Even if we can get all of our needs met, our wants keep growing, right? I want a better tablet. I want, more video games. I want a bigger screen TV. I want a car that goes vroom vroom better. We always want more stuff, right? And so that's just the nature of humanity. That's the nature of society and history. So when we're talking about economics, we have to pay homage to the OG, the first, of our major economists that really determined what economics was, and his name is Adam Smith. The invisible hand. The same year as our independence, 1776, he introduced a couple of ideas, but the main one that he introduced is the idea of dividing labor into discrete tasks. So it was in his book called The Wealth of Nations. And our book does a great job of talking about it. I'll just find some of the details real quick. So Smith talked about how many tasks went into making a pin. Something as simple as a little pin, right? Just something that's round and then goes out and has, a little bit of a pointed end, right? So in the making of a pin, he counted 18 distinct tasks for a pin, right? They had to draw the piece of wire. They had to cut it to the right length. They had to straighten it. They had to put a head on the pin. They had to sharpen they had to put a point on the other one. They had to package the pins for sale. And he found that a single person alone in a day might make about 20 pins.
We're getting into specialization, how to use efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you divide the labor into different tasks, and when you have people that get better at those tasks, so division of labor and specialization, so then if you have 10 workers, each doing one part of it, you're going to have them making 48,000 pins. Rather than the, 10 workers at 20 pins a day would be 200 pins. So, we're talking about orders of magnitude more pins per worker because of the result of this division of labor and specialization. So he offered 3 reasons why this system works the way that it does. The first one is what we talked about, the specialization. Right? Some people have an advantage for some of these tasks. Like some of the people may have really nimble fingers that, don't get poked at all, so they want to be involved in the packaging of the pins. Right? Other people, might have bigger hands and they keep poking themselves in their hands with the pins, and so they want to be the ones that are, measuring the wire and cutting the wire or something like that, right? So specialization allows people to focus on the parts of the production process where they have an advantage. Everybody has different skills, talents, and interests. Otherwise, it'd be a boring world. And so some people are going to be better at some jobs than others. Now, when we start to abstract to a more modern day economy, part of this specialization has to do with educational choices, right? I can't just go out and say that I'm a medical doctor, right? I need a medical degree. Other times geography impacts things, right? It's hard to run a tourist center, up in North Dakota, but it's easier to run a wheat farm or something like that, right? Compared to in Florida, it's easier to run a tourist farm in Florida than it is in North Dakota. If you live near a big city, it's easy to attract a bunch of customers for a successful dry cleaning business. I don't know if you guys know the origins of that new Scooter's coffee shop that we have in town here, but that was this cursed laundromat dry cleaning business that could not survive in this town. There just wasn't enough demand for dry cleaning services, right? You got maybe the CEOs of the banks and the hospital and the president of the college and stuff like that here, but it's not a business town where everybody's wearing suits all the time and needs to get them dry cleaned, right? So some of this specialization has to do with talent, some has to do with education, some has to do with geography. The second reason that Smith gave was that the workers who specialize in tasks produce more quickly. So we'll call this,
Simplification?
well, it's kind of comparative advantage. And because we'll tie into this later with businesses where they can focus on one or a few products and be more successful than other firms that make a wide range of products, or even just with countries writ large. You know what I mean? Countries specialize in certain things and they're able to trade and then get more overall. So this has to do with the fact that the specialized workers become more efficient. And then the third thing that Smith touched upon is economies of scale. So this is what we're seeing right here up top, right? When we talk about the one worker, 20 pins a day, you know, this would be 10 times 20, which would equal 200 pins a day if there wasn't any sort of economies of scale. But with economies of scale, the average cost of producing each individual unit declines. So economies of scale is the reason why, you know, if I wanted to start my own electric car company tomorrow, it'd be pretty difficult, right? It's very expensive. You know, if you want to produce 100 cars per year, it's going to cost a ton of money per car. But if you want to produce, you know, 50,000 cars per year, then you set up an assembly line with huge machines and workers and stuff like that, right? So automobile assembly lines. Automobiles are only cost effective when they're produced at a very large scale. Workers can focus on their preferences and talents, doing their specialized jobs better, and therefore they can produce and consume far more than if we all tried to just make our own stuff, right? So this concept of specialization only works well, though, if we have functioning markets that trade. You have to be able to get paid for your time in order to purchase things. The nice thing is we don't have to know everything about all of the goods that we're now consuming and enjoying, right? You don't have to understand how your iPhone works or your Android phone works. You just have to know how to use it, right? But, you know, if you kind of go back a couple hundred years, you know, you had to know about the things that you were going to be consuming because you were at least partly involved in the production process. You don't have to know anything about an internal combustion engine, right? You just get in and you drive. You have to take a test, you have to learn rules and everything like that, knowledge of the skills and knowledge, but you don't have to understand things in a way that we used to have to. Questions on specialization or Adam Smith?